Hi folks, it's early spring. I've been monitoring my trees almost daily for bud movement, and this one kind of surprised me. My western larch, it's got some green needles that are starting to emerge on its buds or spurs is the name. And this one kind of surprised me, but then when I looked at my spreadsheet where I keep track of bud burst, this one has budded out as early as March 22nd. And March 26th was another bud out date, so it's early March, so it's actually not super unusual, especially considering perhaps that we've had such a warm winter. So I am going to repot this tree today. I'll explain why I'm going to repot it and show you, of course, the pot that I have picked out. So that's the plan today. So I'll tell you the story of this tree. Again, a western larch, and I collected this from the Bonsai cliff in April 2022. So it's been in this pot for 4 years, and I collected it about when the buds were about like this, just barely emerging green leaves. So I think the right time of year. It leafed out just fine, then lost all of its needles that summer in July. And I thought, well, a failed collection, that's too bad, because I really liked the movement in the trunk. I love this tree, that's why I collected it. I was disappointed. But then I went on vacation, and when I came back, I noticed green leaves emerging again. So I was pretty thrilled. Then the next 2 years, it didn't grow too strongly. It leafed out, but only extended in a few places. And this last spring, it finally, I think for the first time, it really leafed out with some nice big needles and looked quite healthy, very green, healthy needles. They had been emerging kind of with this brownish reddish tint, which didn't bode well in my opinion. So I am going to go ahead and repot it, just a light repotting today, partly because I'm a little concerned about the drainage in this pot. It's a cheap terracotta. It sits just flat against the ground, and I sometimes kind of prop it up sideways to get to drain, and I'd like to put it in a bare drain pot. Also, partly what's prompted this is that this is cracked. It probably could survive another winter, I think, or would crack next winter. But I'm gonna go ahead, and I got, again, a high quality terracotta churning pot, one of the ones that's high fired so that it is frost resistant. And I think I'm gonna use the opportunity of the repot to change the potting angle a little bit. So of course it was like this before. What I think I want to do though is actually lean into that lean more and give it more of a tilt. I don't know. This could be a front, but I also kind of like the way it looks from. I need to see from the camera angle view. More like this too. I kind of like this front, and I also have a little tiny birch tree, a volunteer birch. I believe it's a birch. It's been growing here for, I think it came the first year, so 4 years, and I just keep pruning it down. So it's actually a kind of neat little tree. It's got quite the fat base on it. I'm just going to take that out, and we'll probably just plant it in my grow bed. So that's the plan. I'll get to it. All right, so first I think I'll take that birch out. And I partly want to take it out because I suspect after being here a few years that this thing is pretty well established in here, and I really don't want it to get any more established. Thank goodness, it is definitely doing that. So I'll go ahead and rake a little bit around its roots. Oh, instinctively went with the 3-prong. I am going to do the root hook. Oh wow, yeah, there's actually kind of a cool base on this thing if I expose the root a little bit. Oh my goodness, it's in here. And I don't want to be too invasive with the roots because I've kind of called this a successful collection. It's been 4 years, but I'm still, I've been unsuccessful collecting larch. I kill most of the larch trees I've tried to actually collect, so I'm pretty thrilled about this one. And I'm doing this repot more because I'm worried about the drainage issue, and really, it is pretty, the roots are pretty thick too in this pot, so in addition to not drain out the bottom too well, I kind of feel like when I watered this, the water didn't percolate through too well. It is a pretty small pot. I did put it in the right size pot after collection though. It didn't have an incredibly, robust root system, which is typical of the trees at the bonsai cliff. I think the roots of those trees generally extend pretty far into the cliff in order to, have water enough when we have our hot, dry July and August. So it wasn't too surprising that I collected with not many roots. And then when I collected it, most of the root ball, it just fell apart too. The native soil was very rocky, very, not much clay in it. It just kind of fell away. So this was potted pretty much in pure bonsai soil from the start, post-collection. So I almost have this birch tree. There we go. There's the birch tree. So yeah, kind of a cool little tree. Yeah, I'm gonna throw this in my grow bed for sure. I don't know. It's got huge leaves, but why not? I'll keep developing it as kind of a small bonsai. Alright, put that aside. And there are more pieces of its root in here, I can tell. Because they're a different color. But I think many of these other roots, they seem to be conifer roots. They look like conifer roots. So it has grown quite a few roots. That's great to see. And now, I think next what I'm going to do is go for this sedum on top. Again, I'm not going to try and pull the sedum out, uproot it, but I am going to be pretty aggressive and just knocking it back. And really, I don't know if I should have planted a sedum in here when this tree was in kind of recovery mode. I didn't plant it initially, for sure. I think it had been 2 years, and I decided, yeah, I'm going to stick a sedum in here. But maybe I shouldn't have. Because I consider this tree kind of in intensive care. It's been in intensive care until last year. And so Western Larch has a pretty limited range compared to American or Eastern Larch. Maybe I'll show those maps I made here. It's just a small little range in Western North America. And I'm kind of right there in its range. So it's kind of neat having one of these. It's not a very typically used species for bonsai. And I was trying to think, it has pretty big needles, pretty coarse growth relative to like Japanese larch or even American larch. Although I haven't seen too many American larches in the wild. They just don't grow in my area. Anyways, I was trying to think what's maybe an advantage of Western Larch. I guess the novelty is one thing. But I did realize, I know larches can get pretty old. And so one advantage perhaps of a Western Larch over Eastern Larch is Western Larch, they can live to be 500 to 1,000 years old. So very long-lived tree. They do have really nice, like very barky, thick bark. Like I know people go crazy about like ponderosa pine bark. Well, the bark on an old Western Larch is pretty barky. It's very barky, very furrowed. So they've got good bark. And so Eastern Larch, I don't know again much about those trees. I just have my one that's a cultivar. But they actually only typically live to be maybe 1 to 300 years old, or even 1 to 200 maybe. So anyways, this is a longer lived tree, so that's a cool thing. I love it, of course, because of the needles, the changing needles throughout the growing season. All right, so I think I've taken care of, I've just knocked that sedum back. It's gonna regrow. That's fine. But just kind of took some of the strength out of it. Guess I'm still pulling it up. But I'm not even gonna disturb this top layer of roots. I don't know if I want to disturb the nebari. I guess I will excavate a little bit. Maybe I should. I don't want to lose the bark at the bottom. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and take the bark off and reapply. We are going to do a little bit of top work on this after all. Change my mind. So we will end up reapplying this bark. But I'm thinking about this bark, because this tree has nice bark at the bottom. Even though it's small, I estimate this tree's at least a decade, but it's probably more like 20 years old. Based on the other trees that I've killed that I've counted the rings on from the Bonsai cliff. One was a tiny tree and it was like 15 years old. This one is much larger. But yeah, let's uncover that bark a little bit. Uncover the nebari. Again, I'm just being very gentle. And another good thing on this tree, it does have a pretty good nebari. It's got it spreads. It's not kind of like got a weird base on it, which is kind of typical of some Yamadori trees. They have kind of weird roots sometimes, weird bases. At least the ones at the Bonsai cliff. So we'll expose that top a little bit. Okay, so that actually, I'm glad I did that, because now it maybe I don't need to take as much off the bottom to fit in this pot. Yeah, not really. That's good. Now it's the potting angle thing. So round pots, I don't need to think about what the front is necessarily too much. Well, I do, because I want to tilt the tree in such a way that the front looks good. And so I think I'm going to go with my new front. I've been staring at this tree for 2 years. I'm ready for a new front, and this is it. This is the move. Conifer roots are so wimpy. It's because they've evolved with that, you know, I can't think of mycorrhiza or whatever, fungus. They work together with fungus. It's a mutualistic thing. So they're wimpy roots compared to deciduous. They don't have to be strong. They rely on that fungus. Alright, so now the trick is to get soil in there so there's not an air gap. So maybe I do need to tease out these roots. Yeah, I think the right move is to just loosen this all around the sides, just a tad, so the new roots transition into the new soil a little bit better. Yeah, I don't like the roots at the bottom. They're too wet. It's too wet. I think this is the right move. It needs to be draining better. I dare say too, maybe it would have done better, recovered better if it would have had better drainage from the start. Alright, I'm gonna call that good. I just roughed up the roots a bit. I don't want to prune them though. Well, you know what? Now I have all these roots, these long danglies. Okay, I am going to prune some of the danglies. Let's do it. Keep changing my mind on this repot. Just a few danglies. Alright. Alright, the big question is, do I really like this potting angle? I mean, I think I do, but I just obsess. Because I can just take it out and redo it. Adjust a little bit, that's an option. And I frequently do that. But I don't think I am. I think this is it. You know, it's again, when you have a good trunk line that's interesting and complex, you can pot at many different angles. So that's what makes it kind of hard. There's like so many possibilities. All right, I am gonna go ahead and reapply moss, yeah, then we'll just water it in. So here it is, my new front, and I like it. I realized though spinning around that it actually looks good from many angles, so a good problem to have. And it made me think, you know, eventually when I do put this in its final pot, or a more finished pot, maybe in 4 more years or so, maybe I'll use a round pot. Here's the original front, and it still actually looks pretty good to me. I like that it's a little more offset and leaning more that way than it originally was. So yeah, maybe a round pot, although also one thought I had for this tree is I'd kind of like a more naturalistic pot, you know, that looks kind of rockish or more free form. So yeah, and I'm not gonna wire it today. I was thinking if this is my new front, one issue with this front is the apex actually starts leaning away, and then you have this tension. So I was maybe gonna wire this branch up to become a new leader. But I'm not gonna do no wiring today, not gonna do anything at the top. I'm just gonna let it adjust to this repot. And cross my fingers that does fine with the little bit of work I did to it. I think it'll be fine, but I don't know. It's unknown again. Last spring I repotted some Yamadori trees after their first collection, and really didn't know, you know, how are they going to handle it. And they handled it fine. I feel like the Douglas fir is doing well. The Western hemlock did well for the repot. So I'm really hoping this one does fine too. And yeah, again, surprised me. You gotta watch your buds. I was thinking I'd repot this in a few weeks. But looking at the buds, there are little tiny needles emerging, and they're emerging fast. I feel like a few days ago there was no green showing, and now there's a couple millimeters of green poking out of many of these spurs, maybe 50% of them. So it was time. So yeah, I gotta watch those buds. Can't just follow a calendar. All right, well, until next time, happy bonsai.